we are doing a lot of educational work, and there are lots of materials that people can get, and there are lots of ways to get involved. So we have a book, Awakening from the Dream. You can find out about the book online at our website, and we have a YouTube site, and a Facebook site, and a website. We also have fact sheets that can be downloaded. We also have a video, Take Back the Courts, and we've got a really wonderful, exciting contest called Civil Rights 2.0. You can find out about it at rollbackcampaign.org. There are little posters about it. And if you know folks who are 16 to 25 and they want to do a video, someone mentioned that all the activism is going into doing videos. Well, there's other form of activism too, but it's still a good thing to do a video. And then we can get the word out through the voices and the words and the images of young people. So we're asking that they do videos and they upload them on YouTube and they participate in the contest. And we'd be really excited about that.
Cool. Okay, everyone have that website?
Rollbackcampaign.org.
Isn't that a little ageist? The whole age thing? I'm about to be 27, so I miss it. But I feel like it's kind of like disenfranchising.
Here's the deal.
As an older person.
As an older person, A, you can mentor younger people. So okay. It gives you a special place in the world.
And you want to come under my wing, I'll show you how to use a video camera.
And B, there are other things you can do. You can blog. You can get involved in a whole host of ways, and in fact, you're involved today, so we thank you for that.
That's what I'm going to do. That would be funny if I do like a pseudo attack on the ageism of, that'll be good. It'll get your attention. I'll pick it. I'll pretend I feel really old and pretend that I represent the octogenarians. So I know you can't. You can't say what we all know, which is that McCain is terrible, and Obama is at least infinitely better to actually good, somewhere in between. Some would say great, excellent, whatever. I don't know, honestly. The whole, whatever. Some of his speeches are getting a little annoying. I say that, like talking to friends, obviously. Nonpartisan friends, but I wouldn't say this on the street corner or to undecided people, just so you know. But tell me why this election even matters.
Okay, so we are nonpartisan. And I wouldn't take a position. I want to make that perfectly clear. But it really does matter because the next president will be not only choosing 2 to possibly 3 or more Supreme Court justices, but the entire federal court has had turnover and will continue to have turnover. So that's district court judges and circuit court judges, and those judges make a huge difference. It's those judges that are deciding whether or not this country can have a Clean Water Act, or a Clean Air Act, or an Americans with Disabilities Act, whether Congress has the power to do that, whether we can go into court to enforce our rights. All those things that we were talking about before, those are on the line, and it really makes a difference to the future of the country.
Can I ask a question about Ledbetter?
Sure.
I'm saying it correctly, right? Okay, I just want to make sure that I'm not missing something, but it's saying that if you get underpaid because you're a woman, or because you're black, or because you're gay, or for whatever reason, right? If you're not in on the secret of your being screwed within a certain number of days, then you're disqualified from suing?
That's right. That's right. Lily Ledbetter is actually a wonderful personality. Some of us had this great opportunity to meet her and hear her talk about her experience. One of the funny things it wasn't really funny, but the funny thing she was talking about was after this experience. Okay, so she's working for Goodyear and she's paid far less than all of her male contemporaries. She finds out about it late. She brings suit as soon as she can. They say, well, the Supreme Court says, well, too late because you were evaluated years ago and that evaluation led to your lower pay. Not that you were evaluated as inferior, right. You just, as a result of that, you got less money. Even if it was discriminatory, you can't challenge it now. So the Supreme Court rules, everybody kind of agrees it's unfair, it's highly technical, unfair, and she gets interviewed by everybody. CNN, everyone else, and they want to interview at her home. And where do they want to interview her? They want to interview her in her kitchen. And so they go to her house, they want to interview her in her kitchen, and they say, can you make coffee? And can you make cake? She's like, I don't make coffee. They're like, but we need coffee. You know, the atmosphere. Right. You want to show you're a nice lady, right? She's like, my husband makes the coffee. They insist insisted that she make coffee and cake.
Did she burn it? That would be good. She burns the coffee.
It's just a sign of our times. We're so clueless, you know. And
were they like, you should really be getting educated and working on the boat? And we'll talk about
it was kind of like, you should be making coffee and cake. And
yeah.
so, and it was not just one, it was multiple networks who were interviewing her in her kitchen, wanting to do this over coffee and cake, which she had to make. You can't go to Walmart and buy the coffee and cake. You must make it because you're a woman.
They were doing her a favor. They wanted her to get in touch with her domestic side. She had been exploited as a worker.
She had been working at Goodyear,
right.
So that's not a traditional
right.
feminine kind of.
Right. It was like a femi for the working woman who should be at home. Yeah. I thought about that a lot. That wasn't spur of the moment or anything, but I've often called that whole, situation. Okay, a couple more questions. One is, what is the deal with the gun ruling? Because I've heard people who I would think, who do usually agree politically on things, they're divided about this, right? Why is it not so simple an issue?
Well, I think there are a few issues, and we can talk about the virtue of guns or no guns, and gun control and safety, and taking care of people we love, and the fact that there are something like 200 to 300 million guns out there in America, and how many people commit suicide with guns, and all that kind of stuff, which we could talk about.
Accidents.
But I think one of the issues that is not really talked about enough is what is the basis on which decisions are being made? And we have political leaders and Supreme Court justices who talk a lot about original intent and strict constructionism and, gee, we're going to stick close to the text. And as someone said before, there's a lot of interpretation that goes on. So from my point of view, one of the interesting things about these decisions is not just, do we have a gun law or do we not, and what, how will that affect us, which is very real and really important. But also the fact that the Second Amendment really doesn't say very much about the DC gun law.
Right.
And you have a justice like Scalia, or you have the Supreme Court, which is kind of sticking to this idea that we're originalists or we're strict constructionists. And it's kind of a mask that prevents all of us from really understanding what's going on and what is their reasoning. So I think a lot of this is important because they are not conservatives. They are not, really trying to keep the country in kind of the state it's in. There is a radical agenda here to change our country.
Activist judges?
Very activist, but on the right.
Right.
And that's a major change that we all have to be aware of.
But is there any in other words, why weren't all liberals opposed to the ruling? Wasn't there some argument about kind of an inconsistency in Washington, D.C., and the fact that there's a high proportionate number of black people living in D.C., and the whole question of the right to bear arms being,
On any given ruling, you're not going to have total unanimity on any side. There was a very strong civil rights presence defending the D.C. law, including the NCRCR Legal Defense Fund, and a whole range of civil rights groups. But there is a question that some people have raised about where the focus is and whether or not somehow there is a difference in the way people see gun laws in a white community versus an African American or Latino or other community. There are a lot of issues. There's a lot of racism out there. There's a lot of issues that we all have to take a close look at. But I think the thrust of the civil rights community for quite a long time, for 15, 20 years, has been a real concern about violence in low-income communities.
Do you think the NRA is picking itself? Because now, I saw in San Francisco, I imagine them getting the email or the phone call and freaking out. There's a gay man who's suing San Francisco because he wants the right now to bear a gun in his public housing to be able to defend himself from a hate crime. And I was like, what does the NRA do? Did they forget it? We don't actually like this law. Forget it. We were just kidding.
I think the NRA is not keeping itself. I think they're doing a lot of fundraising, and I think they're in joy right now, and they and their counterparts in the right-wing legal community are going out there and planning lots of assaults, legal assaults, on gun laws all over the country.